is a video instruction manual. The manual supplied with the machine must always be read in full before use and the advice followed in full. Record Power Limited do not accept responsibility for any accidents occurring through misuse of machines or a failure to observe the health and safety warnings and advice. Hello, I'm Alan Holtham and welcome to this buyer's guide to the planer thicknesser. If you're thinking about buying one of these machines, this DVD will show you what it does and what to look for when you're choosing one. This is a machine I really couldn't be without. I use mine virtually every day. So why is it so useful? For a start, you can now prepare all your own material, which has two big advantages. It reduces the cost and gives you total control over the quality. You can buy cheaper, rough sawn material, plane it first to get it straight and flat, and then thickness it to get it exactly the size you require. If you have to rely on buying expensive, ready prepared timber, you'll often find it's warped or twisted. With your own machine, you don't have to throw it away. You can plane and thickness it to salvage what would otherwise be useless material. Plane a straight face, and then an edge, and then just run it through the thicknesser to produce a perfectly usable piece of timber. If you want to chamfer off corners or plane awkward angles, this is the machine for the job. The fence can be set easily to any angle from 0 to 45 degrees. Second-hand or damaged timber can be cleaned up and then reused. Another great way of saving money. If you want to match up to an existing piece, use the thicknesser to get the precise size needed. Getting all the components the same thickness is essential for accurate jointing. All these jobs are difficult and time consuming to do by hand. A planer thicknesser allows you to size timber accurately, saves you money and improves the quality of your work. It generally makes your woodworking life a lot easier. To demonstrate the principles of the machine, I'm using the Record Power PT260X, which is commonly referred to as a 10x6 planer thicknesser. Now this term 10x6 refers to the capacity, and what it means is you can plane a piece up to 10 inches wide and then thickness up to 6 inches deep. If you think in metric, this is 260 millimeters by 150. It's plenty big enough for the average home workshop. A little bit later on, I'll show you what extra you get for your money if you spend a little bit more and buy something like the Record Power PT320, which is a much heavier duty machine. Okay, so here's a piece of wood. Here's a planer. Why do I need a thicknesser? Why can't I just plane both faces? Well, I could. I could plane this surface, turn the wood over and plane this surface. Then there'd be no guarantee they ended up parallel. The only way you're going to get them parallel is to use a thicknesser. So why can't I just use a thicknesser? I have to use the planer to establish a flat datum point to start with. Once I've got that flat surface, I can thickness off that and get a perfectly parallel piece. It is possible to buy individual machines, a separate planer and a separate thicknesser, but quite often space and sometimes budget are a bit limited in the home workshop, so a combined planer thicknesser is ideal. The construction of the machine will obviously have a major bearing on its accuracy and reliability. So let's have a look in detail at the main features. Record Power planer thicknessers are all made from high quality materials and they all feature cast iron thicknessing tables for maximum support and rigidity. They also use good quality electrical components for total reliability. And this is all coupled to a very sturdy construction. The stronger and heavier the construction of the machine, the more capable it is of handling large sections of material and remaining accurate. This PT260 weighs 80 kilograms. That's pretty solid, isn't it? The heart of the machine is the tables. These need to be plenty long enough to give you support when you're trying to straighten pieces during the initial surfacing operation. It's also vital they are flat and perfectly aligned. There's no way you'll be able to plane properly unless these tables are flat and they're parallel to each other. The surfacing tables should be either cast iron or cast aluminium like these. However, you don't want them too long, otherwise it makes it more difficult to retrieve the timber as it's passing through the thicknesser. An overall length of 1 metre, as on this machine, is the ideal compromise for most home users and a machine of this capacity. Longer beds are found on the more industrial planers, such as the PT260, where the extra length helps straighten long pieces of timber. Now these tables are made from aluminium, which has been specially hardened and then treated to reduce friction. Just allows the timber to slide more easily as you're surfacing. We've got a full capacity of 260 millimetres wide. Now, although they're aluminium, the tables are very strong, which also makes them lighter and more easy to remove when you convert to the thicknessing operation. You can easily check the alignment of the tables using a straight edge. Wind the in-feed table up until it's level with the out-feed, and then lay the edge across the two and sight down it. The tables should be perfectly parallel, so you'll soon see if any adjustments are necessary. If any are needed, you can use these little grub screws. Now, planer thicknessers are not the quietest of machines, but if you look close at the table, you'll see the slots cut in either side of the cutter block. This reduces the noise considerably. I keep stressing the importance of the alignment of these tables. And one of the worst things you can do, particularly if you're short of space in your workshop, is to drag the machine around using these tables to lift it with. When you are buying a planer thicknesser, make sure you buy one that has a wheel set available. This PT260 comes with a caster set provided. All you'd have to do, lift the machine up, and then you can push it around very easily to protect those precious tables. Another very important feature is the fence. It needs to be strong and rigid, and you should be able to lock it at 90 degrees to the table to get that perfect square edge. Sometimes, however, you might want to plane an angle, in which case the fence will tilt down to a maximum of 45 degrees. There are stops at 45 and 90 degrees to help you reset the fence, but check it with a square to guarantee accuracy. You can also move the fence across the width of the table so you can spread the wear across the cutter block. Think about safety on a planer. There's a bridge guard here which you can slide over to cover any exposed area of cutters, and the same arrangement is on the back of the fence as well to make sure everything is always safe. The depth of cut is set by lowering the in-feed table by turning the handle on the end there, and this shows up on a scale on the side with a maximum cut of 3 millimeters. So let's have a look at what does the actual planing, the cutter block. On this machine it's fitted with 2 knives and spins at 6,500 RPM, so effectively that gives us 13,000 cuts a minute. So we can feed the timber quite quickly and still get a good finish. This will give you a better view of the cutter block. You can see that the knives are held in place with these wedges, and these are secured with 4 locking bolts down the length. There's also adjusters to get the amount of protection just right. On this machine the blades are double-edged, so when they do eventually dull down, take them out, turn them over, and you've got a new set of edges exposed. Now the projection of the knives from the block is absolutely critical, and they provide you with a simple little jig to get this dead right. The cutter block is driven via a V-belt from the motor mounted down here. Now in order to cope with big cuts at full depth of cut, you need plenty of power. This motor is 2¼ horsepower, it's about as big as you can get on a standard 13 amp supply. Now record power motors are all mechanically braked. That means that when you switch off they come to a dead stop within 10 seconds. Beware of some electronically braked machines because these quickly burn out if you regularly switch them on and off. Let's have a look at what's involved in converting to thicknessing. All we need to do is remove the fence, then take off the back table. Just slacken off those levers, very straightforward, very quick. And now you can see exposed the cutter block and the feed mechanism. On this machine we've got 2 metal feed rollers, one either side of the cutter block, and these push the timber through the thicknesser at a speed of 5 meters per minute, and this combined with the rotational speed and the 2 knife cutter block gives us a super fine finish. Notice also, for added safety, we've got anti-kickback fingers here as well. Planer thicknesses generate a lot of dust when you're using them, so we need some form of extraction. On this machine there's a hood already built in. Just hinge it over. You also use the hood that's underneath, which you use when you're surfacing. Take it out, put it on top like that, and just clip it in place on this side with the lever, on this side with the guard. And now we can connect the hose to our extractor. You will need a dust extractor with a planer thicknesser for two reasons. Not only does it clear away all the shavings as you produce them, but also it stops the chippings dropping back down onto the surface of the timber as it goes through the thicknesser, because this will spoil the surface. Ideally, you want a dedicated chip extractor, a big one, because you produce a lot of shavings. But if you haven't got the space, you can get by with one of these small drum extractors, but you will have to accept you've got to empty it quite frequently. If you buy one of these also, make sure it has the 100mm outlet to maximise the suction. Another safety feature on these machines is the micro switches. These ensure that the machine can't be operated unless the extraction hoods are in position. Here's the actual thicknessing table, which is raised and lowered by turning this handle. And a useful scale on this side gives you a readout of the thickness you're going to produce. Like the surfacer, you've got a maximum 3mm depth of cut, but remember, a couple of light passes is always better than one big heavy one. This is the Record Power PT260 planer thicknesser, a machine for the serious enthusiast or the professional user. It's bigger, it's stronger, and it's much, much heavier. It weighs a massive 250 kilos. But don't worry, if you need to move it around the workshop, you can fit a wheel kit to make this easier. Remember, never pick it up by the tables. But just look at these tables. We now have an overall length of 1.5 meters, which is just what you need for straightening bent or twisted material. If you try and straighten on a machine with short tables, you end up just following the curve. So the longer they are, the better. The tables are solid cast iron, making them really strong and really rigid, and they're ribbed underneath as well for additional strength. They'll give you years of accurate and reliable service. The cut is set with this big screwed adjuster, giving a maximum depth of cut of 5mm. There's a clear scale here so you can see exactly what you've set. Another good feature is that both tables are adjustable, which makes it a lot easier to reset the blades after sharpening. It has a much bigger capacity. This is a 12x9 machine, so we have a 12-inch capacity on the surfacer. That's 320mm. And the thicknesser can deal with pieces up to 9 inches deep or a full 230mm. The fence is bigger and stronger as well. There's lots of depth, lots of length, and it moves easily across the table on this heavy-duty dovetail slide. Just look how smooth and easy this is. Tilts as well, any angle up to 45 degrees. And once again, there's a stop to help reset it back at 90 degrees. It's dead easy to change over to thicknessing on this machine as well. You don't even have to remove the fence. Just slide it back fully and then tilt it slightly. Then the tables hinge up out of the way, which is much easier than having to remove them, particularly as they're so heavy. Same on this end. Then the dust chute just hinges over. Couldn't be much easier than that. Also, because both tables hinge up, it's now very easy to use the thicknesser, as despite the long length, you don't have to reach under a fixed table. The thicknessing table is raised with this great big hand wheel, so you can make precise adjustments. The table is supported on a massive central column, again really strong, really rigid, so precise cuts are guaranteed every time. Then just lock it at the required setting. There's a lever here that operates a clutch to disengage the feed rolls to the thicknesser, so when you are surfacing, all the power goes to the cutter block and none is diverted to the feed rollers. The feed speed on the PT260 is faster as well. This is now 8.5 meters per minute, so theoretically the finish will be poorer as there can't be so many cuts per millimetre. But if you look closely at the cutter block, there are now 3 knives, which dramatically increases the number of cuts per minute, so the finish is still excellent, even though the throughput is that much faster. Just look at the size of the cutter block. You can't beat sheer mass when you're trying to achieve a perfect finish. Although it's big, the block is dynamically balanced, so it runs really smoothly. The 3 knives are resharpenable, so do consider buying yourself a spare set to use whilst the others are being sharpened.